Welcome to episode 1383 of the Multifamily Collective. Today I wanted to talk about expense management in 2023. The most pronounced priority, it's probably the best way to put it, pronounced priority, the biggest priority in multifamily in 2023 is going to be expense control. Every single line item in our GL is now subject to examination in terms of how do you manage that cost. If it is a cost that is an exact cost and can't be negotiated down, how do you keep it stable over the long term? But there are areas, my imagination tells me there are areas where you can consolidate things. You can look at your tech stack, bring things in and consolidate things under one vendor versus 10, or areas of opportunity as it relates to using your economy of scale to keep things flat and or negotiate prices down. My imagination also tells me that now that the supply chain, the glut in the supply chain is largely solved, that's my speculation based on what I've read, that you're going to see some downward pressure on pricing, especially as people are trying to work through inventories that they accelerated or sort of built up during the COVID-19 pandemic. You should see some of those costs come down in terms of parts and pieces. Labor is a interesting component that I don't know is going to get downward pressure, or sort of the broader economy is not going to force downward pressure on labor costs, at least not right now. I think that's going to happen. I think we're starting to see the tells for that. But I certainly think it accelerates the pace of putting centralization, automation, outsourcing, or elimination of things into your organization. You at least have to think about those four lenses to cut cost or manage cost. And so certainly labor is subject to having your job centralized into fewer team members actually doing your work versus multiplying those efforts through more resource, more human resource. So labor is going to be an interesting component. Taxes and insurance, not much you can do there. Although, if there could be an argument made uh, that property values are going to start to come down, and if they come down, then reassessing those assets as it relates to value for tax purposes, then maybe you start to see some savings there on a year-over-year basis, maybe 24 versus 23 or 25 versus 23. So lots of pressure on managing costs because rents, you're not seeing those astronomical rent growth numbers in the coming year or two. Who knows what that is? That's a little crystal ball thinking on my part. It's not to say that we're not going to get rent growth. I think rent growth is just going back to a historic number, um, reverting to the mean, so to speak. And so you're going to start to see some of these price the cost side of the business that is certainly inflated over the last couple of years start to become subject to figuring out how to drive those pieces of our business down. So you have to make profit at the end of the day. You have to give returns to the investors. If you want to have investment in the future, you need to give returns to the investors in the near term, but you also need to operate a business and a profitable business to do so. So all of that being said, focus on expenses in 2023. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.